$17 trillion of debt is not a big problem.
We don't have an immediate crisis in terms of debt. In fact, for the next 10 years, it's going to be in a sustainable place.
Of course, that's very different from what he said in 2008 when he was running for president, when the debt was then only $9 trillion.
Number 43 added $4 trillion by his lonesome, so that we now have over $9 trillion of debt that we are going to have to pay back. $30,000 for every man, woman, and child. That's irresponsible. It's unpatriotic.
So that math didn't add up when he was a candidate, but now obviously he has other thoughts. We wanted to hear what former Democratic Congressman and Fox News contributor Dennis Kucinich has to say about all of this. Good morning, Congressman.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. Do you think that $16 trillion of debt is a crisis or not?
Well, first of all, I looked at the clip, and the president was more right in 2008 than he is now. Debt and spending are a problem, but we have to ask, why are we going into debt, and what are we spending money on? We went into debt to give tax cuts to the top 1%, which accelerated the wealth upwards, and also we went into debt for war, which was based on lies. So debt and spending are a problem. You have to ask why we're in the condition we're in.
Okay, so now that we're here, now that we're in this condition, is this something that should be at the top of the president's priority list, or as he said, it's not an immediate crisis?
Well, at the top of the list, I think the issue of private consumer debt should be there. Because, well, the $16 trillion in government debt is something that we should all be concerned about. Do you know that right now we have about $26 trillion in private consumer-based debt, mortgages, credit cards, student debt, and there's a direct causal relationship between this kind of debt for individuals and recessions and depressions. We ought to be paying attention to this massive private debt, finding ways to help write down mortgages, forgive student debts, and help the economy get going again through creating jobs. That's where the focus ought to be.
Well, wouldn't it also set a good tone if the government didn't have a spending problem? I understand that you're saying that average Americans seem to have a spending problem, but wouldn't it help if our leaders could tackle this effectively and we don't see any example of that? I mean, let's remember that in 2008, candidate Obama, as we just said, called the national problem, the federal spending, unpatriotic.
Well, I think that we have to look at where we are today. The economy, our economy is 70% based on consumer spending. And when you have consumers, the American middle class, median family income is down. Wages are flat. They're stagnant. People don't have money. They're not spending. And we aren't creating jobs. We have high unemployment. We have to get the economy moving again. We've got to get money into people's hands again. And we've got to look at the massive private debt, which is a direct threat to our economy and puts us on the precipice of another depression.
Okay.
I mean, this is where the focus ought to be. So whatever was said in 2008 in the campaign, you know, I know about that. I was on a platform with the president. But the situation today is we have an emergency with respect to high unemployment, the American middle class being in a very dangerous position where they just don't have any money.
Yes, I mean, you're framing it in crisis terms, in terms of the debt, be it federal or personal. What's the answer?
Well, the answer is to create jobs. That's number one. And then we also have to look at helping people write down their mortgages so we can keep them in their homes. This is something I was talking about back in 2008 when I voted against the bailout, and I said our focus ought to be keep millions of Americans in their homes. Now people are starting to wake up and say, well, maybe that's a good idea. And also student debt is massive. It's the second source of debt behind mortgages, maybe even about to eclipse the mortgage debt. We have to do something about that student debt, and I think write-downs are in order there too. We have to get this yoke of debt off the back of the American middle class, and we've got to create jobs. Why, in all this talk about spending and deficits, why isn't Congress, why isn't the president talking about creating jobs? We should be getting America back to work, prime the pump of the economy. If the private sector is not creating the jobs, the public sector is going to have to do it.
All right, former Congressman Dennis Kucinich, thanks so much for joining us with your perspective this morning.
Thank you.
Nice to see you. He graduated fourth from the bottom of his class. He was